It was a rainy Tuesday evening when my life took a turn I never saw coming. The rain came down in heavy sheets, pounding against my tiny apartment window as if trying to drown out the sound of my growing worries. I sat on the edge of my worn-out couch, staring at my laptop screen. The numbers in my bank account were painfully low, and each new email seemed to bring another bill or overdue notice. I had just turned 24, freshly out of university, clutching a degree I once believed would open every door for me. But life in the bustling city of Toronto, Canada, was far tougher than I'd imagined. The city was alive with opportunities, lights, and dreams, but for someone like me, an inexperienced freelance writer trying to make a name, it felt like the odds were stacked against me. My job, though something I loved, wasn't paying enough. I spent countless hours pitching articles to magazines, writing blog posts for small businesses, and ghostwriting for people who didn't even bother to say thank you. Every project felt like a drop in the ocean of expenses I was drowning in. Rent was overdue, the fridge was nearly empty, and I didn't even have enough money for the bus ride to meet a potential client the next morning. As I sat there in the dim glow of my desk lamp, the sound of the rain became almost hypnotic. It seemed to echo the storm brewing in my life. I kept asking myself, how did it come to this? I was supposed to be doing better by now. Wasn't I the same girl who graduated top of her class and had big dreams of becoming a published author? Where had it all gone wrong? Desperation is a strange thing. It creeps up on you quietly at first, whispering thoughts you would usually push away. But when you're cornered, and the walls feel like they're closing in, those whispers grow louder. They make you consider paths you once judged or feared, paths you told yourself you would never take. That evening, as the rain soaked the city outside, I realized I was standing at a crossroads. I needed to do something, anything, to survive. I had a friend, Evelyn, who seemed to glide through life effortlessly, like the world had been made just for her. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room, and every eye would turn. Her closet was filled with designer bags in all colors, expensive perfumes that left a lingering trail of sophistication, and outfits that screamed elegance. Evelyn wasn't just fashionable, she carried herself with the kind of confidence I could only dream of. Meanwhile, I was the exact opposite. My clothes were practical, bought on sale, and my confidence barely existed. Still, Evelyn and I had been friends since college, and she was always there when I needed someone to talk to. So one evening, after another stressful day of juggling deadlines and dodging phone calls from creditors, I called her up. We met at a cozy lounge downtown, and as usual, Evelyn looked stunning. Her sleek red dress and flawless makeup were a stark contrast to my tired jeans and faded sweater. We ordered drinks, and before long, I found myself pouring out all my frustrations. I told her about my unpaid bills, the endless hustle of freelance writing, and how I felt like I was constantly running uphill with no end in sight. Evelyn listened intently, her perfectly arched brow furrowed in thought. When I finally stopped to catch my breath, she leaned back in her chair and sipped her martini. Then, with the kind of nonchalance only Evelyn could pull off, she said, "Why don't you try Outcalls?" I blinked at her, confused. Outcalls? I repeated. The word sounded foreign, almost strange. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Outcalls. You know, private appointments where clients pay for companionship. She must have noticed the way my mouth fell open because she quickly added, "It doesn't have to be anything sexual. You can set your boundaries and decide what you're comfortable with." My mind raced, trying to process what she was saying. You mean like, an escort? The word felt strange on my tongue. Evelyn rolled her eyes, brushing off my hesitation with a wave of her manicured hand. Not necessarily. Think of it as a business arrangement. Some clients just want someone to talk to, someone to accompany them to events. You're smart, beautiful, and charming. You'd be perfect for it. I laughed nervously, but the idea planted itself in my mind. Evelyn, I don't think I could do something like that. It's just, not me. She shrugged, her gold earrings catching the dim light. I'm not saying you have to decide now. But think about it. You're struggling, and this is a way out. And like I said, you're in control. You call the shots. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. At first, I was horrified. Me, doing that. The very idea felt wrong, like crossing a line I wasn't sure I'd ever come back from. But as the days turned into weeks, and my financial situation grew worse, the idea began to shift in my mind. It no longer seemed like such an impossible option. Bills were piling up, and I was running out of excuses to give my landlord. Desperation has a way of silencing your pride and making you reconsider things you once dismissed. I wasn't committing to anything, I told myself over and over. I was just exploring. Nothing more. Little did I know that the decision to just explore would change everything. One Friday evening, after a particularly grueling day filled with rejection and mounting frustration, I slumped onto my couch, utterly drained. My inbox was littered with rejected pitches, and my unpaid invoices felt like ghosts haunting me. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, its glow reflecting the mess of emotions inside me. I couldn't remember the last time I felt truly hopeful about anything. Evelyn's words echoed in my mind, as they often did these days. "Just take a look," she'd said, with that breezy confidence of hers. "You're not committing to anything." I had laughed it off then, but tonight, the words felt heavier, more insistent. I couldn't shake the idea, as much as I wanted to. Desperation has a way of planting seeds where you least expect them to grow. Before I knew it, I was opening the online forum Evelyn had recommended. It was a discreet platform, cleanly designed, surprisingly professional, where clients and companions could connect. My heart raced as the page loaded. What was I even doing? This wasn't me. Yet, the more I stared at the screen, the more the knot in my stomach loosened. It didn't feel as sinister as I'd imagined. I spent the first 10 minutes just scrolling aimlessly, convincing myself I was only looking out of curiosity. Profiles filled the page, each one unique. Some were bold, showcasing glamorous pictures and confident descriptions. Others were subtle, with simple introductions and minimal details. A mix of nerves and fascination gripped me as I clicked through the profiles. It was a strange new world, one I'd never imagined myself stepping into, but there I was, unable to look away. At some point, I came across a profile that stopped me in my tracks. Unlike the others, it wasn't flashy or overly polished. The bio was short, almost cryptic, looking for good company, respectful and generous. Discretion is key. There was no photo, just a sleek, minimalistic icon. Something about its simplicity intrigued me. I clicked on it, my hands trembling slightly. The profile was straightforward, with only a few details: a name, Alex, and an age, 35. His description was brief but oddly compelling. He mentioned enjoying deep conversations, fine dining, and jazz music. Unlike many other profiles, which felt transactional, this one seemed genuine. However, as I scrolled through the profiles, I saw one that made me pause. His name was Depo. The profile wasn't flashy or overdone, it was simple, even understated, yet it drew me in. The profile picture was intriguing, just a pair of well-polished shoes resting on the sleek floor of a luxury car interior. No face, no grand display. But there was something about it that exuded quiet confidence and sophistication. His bio was brief and to the point, looking for intelligent, engaging conversation over dinner. No strings attached. Those last 3 words, no strings attached, felt like a lifeline. It didn't seem risky or complicated, just simple. Almost too good to be true. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever, my mind running through every possible scenario. Was this safe? Could I trust someone whose face I hadn't even seen? But at the same time, the thought of stepping into something new, something that might help ease my financial burdens, was tempting. Finally, I took a deep breath and typed out a message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I hesitated, rewriting the same sentence 3 times. I settled on something that felt honest yet cautious. "Hi, Depo. I'm new to this and a little nervous, but your profile stood out to me. I'd love to know more about what you're looking for." I stared at the message for a moment, my heart pounding, then hit send before I could overthink it. To my surprise, his reply came almost instantly. The notification made me jump, and I opened the message with trembling hands. His response was polite, respectful, and surprisingly reassuring. "Hi. Thanks for reaching out. I understand this can be nerve-wracking for someone new, but I promise it's nothing complicated. I'm looking for someone to accompany me to a business dinner tomorrow evening. Nothing more, nothing less. No pressure, just be yourself. The simplicity of his words put me at ease, though the idea of going through with it still felt daunting. I reread his message at least 10 times, trying to gauge his sincerity through the screen. There was nothing pushy or demanding about his tone, which helped me breathe a little easier. But agreeing was a whole other matter. I spent the entire night debating with myself. On one hand, I didn't know this man, and stepping into this world still felt foreign and scary. On the other hand, I thought about my growing list of unpaid bills and the sense of helplessness that had been gnawing at me for months. Was this my chance to take control of my life, even if just for one night? Finally, as the clock crept past midnight, I made up my mind. What did I have to lose? I typed out a quick response before I could change my mind. Thank you for explaining, Depo. I'd be happy to join you for dinner tomorrow. As soon as I sent the message, I closed my laptop and sat back, my heart pounding. A mix of fear and anticipation swirled inside me. This wasn't just about the dinner or the money, it was about taking a step into the unknown, about seeing where this path might lead. Little did I know, it would lead to a night I'd never forget. The next day was a whirlwind, a chaotic blur of nerves and preparation. As soon as I woke up, the weight of the evening ahead hit me. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew I wanted to make a good impression. With my heart pounding, I opened my closet and began rifling through the hangers, searching for something that struck the perfect balance between classy and understated. Clothes flew onto my bed as I dismissed each option in frustration. Too casual. Too bold. Too plain. Finally, my fingers landed on a black midi dress Evelyn had gifted me months ago. I had never worn it before, saving it for a special occasion that never came. It was elegant, with a flattering cut that felt sophisticated yet subtle. Paired with simple black heels and a delicate necklace, it felt just right. I spent longer than usual on my makeup, opting for a natural look that enhanced my features without making me look overly done. A touch of mascara, a hint of blush, and a soft pink lipstick. As I styled my hair, my hands trembled slightly, the reality of what I was about to do sinking in. I wasn't just preparing for a dinner, I was stepping into a new chapter of my life. By the time the clock struck 7 p.m., I was standing outside a grand 5-star hotel, clutching my small black purse like it was my lifeline. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain, and the towering hotel loomed above me with its glittering lights and polished facade. I glanced around nervously, my heart racing so fast it felt like it might burst out of my chest. Then I saw him. Depo. He was standing near the entrance, checking his watch casually. He was tall, with a neatly trimmed beard that framed his face perfectly. He wore a tailored navy suit that fit him like it was made just for him, exuding effortless sophistication. But what struck me most was his demeanor, calm, composed, and approachable. As I walked toward him, he noticed me and broke into a warm smile. It wasn't the type of smile that felt forced or calculated. It was genuine, the kind that instantly put me at ease despite the whirlwind of anxiety swirling inside me. "You must be Ada," he said, his voice deep and soothing, like the bass line of a favorite song. For a moment, I forgot how to speak. My mouth went dry, and I could only manage a nod. Finally, I found my voice, shaky but audible. "Yes. You must be Depo." He extended his hand, and I hesitated for a fraction of a second before taking it. His grip was firm but gentle, grounding me in a way I hadn't expected. "It's a pleasure to meet you," he said, his tone warm and genuine. "Likewise," I replied, feeling the faintest hint of a smile tugging at my lips. As we walked toward the grand entrance of the hotel together, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The fear was still there, lurking in the background, but it was tempered by something else, curiosity. This was unlike anything I'd ever done before, and while I didn't know what the night would bring, I couldn't deny the small spark of excitement flickering within me. The restaurant was like something out of a dream, a world of soft golden lights, elegant table settings, and the hum of quiet conversation mixed with the faint strains of classical music. I had never been anywhere like this before. It was the kind of place I'd only seen in movies or glimpsed through the glossy pages of magazines. The waitstaff moved like graceful dancers, their every motion polished and precise, and the aroma of rich cuisine filled the air. Depo led me to our table near a large window that overlooked the city's glittering skyline. The view was breathtaking, but what truly caught me off guard was his attention to detail. He pulled out my chair for me and waited until I was comfortably seated before taking his own. There was no rush in his movements, no sign of impatience. He carried himself with an effortless confidence that made me feel, for the first time in a long time, like I belonged in such a place. He gestured for the sommelier, who arrived with a bottle of wine so exquisite I could barely pronounce its name. Depo exchanged a few quiet words with him, and soon, 2 glasses of deep ruby-red wine were poured and placed before us. As I lifted the glass to my lips, I noticed my hands were no longer trembling. The conversation began easily, like we'd known each other far longer than a few minutes. Depo had a way of speaking that put me at ease, his voice steady and calm, with a warmth that drew me in. He wasn't just charming, he was genuinely engaging. He asked questions that went beyond surface-level pleasantries, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen. "So, Ada," he began, his dark eyes focused intently on mine, "tell me about yourself. What are your dreams? What keeps you awake at night?" I hesitated at first, unsure of how much to share, but there was something disarming about his presence. He didn't push, didn't pry, he just waited, his expression open and encouraging. Slowly, I found myself opening up. I told him about my background, my passion for writing, and the struggles I'd been facing trying to make ends meet in the city. I even mentioned how daunting it was to take this leap into a new world, a confession I never thought I'd voice aloud. To my surprise, he didn't judge. He didn't laugh or dismiss my fears. Instead, he listened with genuine interest, nodding thoughtfully as I spoke. "It takes courage to step outside your comfort zone," he said after a moment. "Most people stay stuck where they are, too afraid to try. But you're brave." His words struck a chord deep within me. Brave. It wasn't a word I'd ever used to describe myself, but hearing it from him made me feel different. Stronger, somehow. As the courses arrived, each more delicious and artfully plated than the last, the conversation continued to flow effortlessly. He shared stories about his work, his travels, and his love for books, which led to an animated discussion about our favorite authors. I was surprised by how down-to-earth he was, despite the polished exterior. He laughed easily, and his laughter was infectious, breaking through the nervous barrier I'd built around myself. Time seemed to slip away. For a few hours, it felt like the rest of the world disappeared. There were no awkward silences, no inappropriate comments, nothing to make me question my decision. Just 2 people sharing a meal, trading stories, and genuinely enjoying each other's company. As the night progressed, I couldn't help but marvel at how different this was from what I had feared. All my anxieties, all the scenarios I'd played out in my head, seemed so far from the reality of the moment. Instead of tension, there was ease. Instead of fear, there was connection. By the time dessert arrived, a delicate chocolate mousse that looked almost too beautiful to eat, I realized something unexpected. I wasn't just surviving this evening, I was enjoying it. Depo wasn't the intimidating, mysterious figure I had imagined when I first saw his profile. He was kind, intelligent, and above all, respectful. For the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself relax. Whatever lay ahead, I knew this moment would stay with me. It was a night I wouldn't soon forget. After dinner, Depo suggested we take a walk. I hesitated for a moment, glancing at my watch, but something about the night, the warmth of the conversation, the way he carried himself, made me say yes. By the time we stepped outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the city bathed in a glistening, almost magical sheen. Puddles reflected the glow of streetlights, and the cool, damp air was filled with the soft sounds of the city winding down for the night. We strolled down the street, heading toward a nearby park. It was one of those serene green spaces tucked away from the usual hustle and bustle, a little oasis in the heart of the city. At first, our conversation continued seamlessly, picking up threads from dinner and weaving them into new topics. We discussed politics, sharing cautious opinions and finding surprising common ground. We laughed over our shared love of mystery novels and debated which authors truly deserved their legendary reputations. Dapo spoke with such passion and insight that it was impossible not to be drawn in, his words painting vivid pictures of the ideas he cared about. As we walked deeper into the park, the noise of the city faded into the background, replaced by the soft rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of crickets. The path was lined with towering trees, their branches forming a canopy above us. When we reached a quiet corner where a lone bench sat beneath a street lamp, Dapo slowed to a stop. He turned to face me, his expression thoughtful, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. For a moment, he seemed to study me, as though seeing something I couldn't quite grasp myself. "You remind me of someone I used to know," he said, his voice quieter now, almost introspective. "She had the same spark, the same drive. The kind of determination that you don't see in everyone. I see a lot of potential in you, Ada." I blinked, caught completely off guard. Of all the things I'd expected to hear that evening, this wasn't one of them. His words hung in the air, heavy with sincerity. My initial instinct was to brush it off, to downplay myself like I always did, but the way he spoke left no room for doubt. He meant it. I managed a small smile, though I felt my cheeks flush with unexpected warmth. "Thank you," I murmured. "That means a lot." He reached into the pocket of his jacket and pulled out a sleek business card. The silver lettering gleamed under the soft glow of the street lamp. "I run a small publishing company," he said, holding the card out to me. "Send me some of your writing. I'd love to see what you can do." For a moment, I simply stared at the card, the reality of his words slowly sinking in. He wasn't just being polite or making an empty gesture. He was offering me an opportunity, one that felt almost too good to be true. I will," I stammered, carefully taking the card as though it might disappear if I wasn't gentle. "Thank you. Really, thank you." Dapo smiled again, the kind of smile that radiated encouragement and quiet confidence. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "Just promise me one thing: don't sell yourself short. You've got something special, Ada. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you otherwise." As we continued our walk, I felt a strange mixture of emotions bubbling inside me: gratitude, disbelief, and a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The night had taken a turn I could never have predicted, and as I glanced at the business card again, I realized this meeting wasn't just about making ends meet. It was about finding a path I hadn't dared to consider before. The next morning, I woke up feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. After much deliberation, I decided to take Dapo up on his offer. I drafted an email, attaching a few of my best writing samples. My hands trembled slightly as I hit send, half expecting silence or polite rejection in return. To my surprise, his reply came within hours. His message was warm, encouraging, and professional. He praised my work, saying it showed promise, and offered me a freelance contract to work on some of his upcoming projects. I stared at the screen, rereading his email several times, unable to believe how quickly things were falling into place. That single email marked the beginning of a journey I never could have anticipated. What had started as a desperate attempt to make ends meet had suddenly become a stepping stone into something far greater. Looking back now, my first Outcall wasn't just a step into the unknown, it was a pivotal moment in my life. It wasn't about the dinner, the park, or even the contract itself. It was about discovering something in myself I hadn't realized was there: courage, resilience, and the ability to embrace the unexpected. Dapo didn't just become a client or an acquaintance, he became a mentor. Over the months that followed, he guided me through the intricacies of the publishing world, offering advice and constructive feedback. He challenged me to believe in myself, to push past my fears, and to take risks I never would have dared to take on my own. Through his guidance, I found my footing in a career I had only dreamed of before. Slowly but surely, I built a portfolio, gained new clients, and began earning enough to leave behind the financial struggles that had once consumed me. As for the world of Outcalls, it became a chapter in my life that I eventually left behind. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but one that came naturally as I grew more confident and secure in my newfound path. Still, I'll always look back on that first encounter with gratitude. It taught me a lesson I carry to this day: Life is unpredictable, and sometimes, the paths we fear the most can lead to opportunities we never imagined. Dapo once told me that every meeting has a purpose, even if we don't see it right away. He was right. That rainy evening, that chance connection, it was more than just a dinner or a walk in the park. It was the spark that reignited my hope, my ambition, and my belief in myself. Life, I've learned, is full of surprises. And sometimes, those surprises come from the most unexpected places, changing our lives in ways we never thought possible.